Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new, welcome to Leisure Gaming. I am Leisure. For today's deck profile, we're looking at the return of P.U.N.K.S, and they are top tier, just not in my hands. Just a recap of P.U.N.K.S, each of the 4 P.U.N.K tuner monsters has an effect that allow players to pay 600 life points to perform an action. When P.U.N.K.S were first introduced to Master Duel, we had access to Help for a long chain combo that resulted in an end board of multiple negates. After the ban of Help, P.U.N.K.S were not played as much, but now that we have new support, P.U.N.K.S are back and they are better than before. To start off the deck profile, we're starting off with all the hand traps that we could possibly have to make sure our P.U.N.K.S are safe. We have 2 DD Crows, 3 Maxis, 1 Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, and if you have 2, go ahead and run 2. We have 3 Ash Blossoms and Joyous Spring, and 1 Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion. Going on to the P.U.N.K.S, we have Shirakusai, and I'm running 2. You can definitely run this at 1. I prefer 2 just in case it is negated. You pay 600 life points to fusion summon 1 P.U.N.K monster from your extra deck, using monsters from your hand or field as material. During your opponent's turn, you can pay 600 life points immediately after this effect resolve, synchro summon 1 P.U.N.K synchro monster using monsters you control as material. Next is 1 P.U.N.K Wagon, and you definitely only need to run this at 1. You really don't want to see this in your opening hand. You pay 600 life points and add 1 P.U.N.K spell from your deck to your hand, and the spell that you're going to be looking for is going to be your field spell, which we will talk about later. When your opponent activates a card or effect that targets a P.U.N.K or P.U.N.K monsters, or when your opponent monsters target 1 for an attack, you can draw 1 card. Next is 1 P.U.N.K Madam Spider, and you only need to run this at 1 for the same reason as the Wagon. You do not want to have this in your opening hand. You pay 600 life points, add 1 P.U.N.K trap from your deck to your hand. When you activate a P.U.N.K card or effect that targets a card your opponent controls, you can target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls. Its attack becomes half until the end of the turn. Going on to the main card for your P.U.N.Ks, P.U.N.K Xiamen, and you definitely need to have this at 3. You can pay 600 life points, add 1 P.U.N.K monster from your deck to your hand, except Xiamen. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 P.U.N.K monster you control. It gains 600 attack. Next is the first of the newest P.U.N.K monsters coming to Master Duel, P.U.N.K Dare No. You can reveal 1 other P.U.N.K monster in your hand, special summon either the revealed monster or this card, and send the other to the graveyard. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can target 1 P.U.N.K monster in your graveyard except a level 5 monster and special summon it. But you cannot special summon P.U.N.K Dare No for the rest of this turn. Next are 3 P.U.N.K Foxy Tune. Once per turn, when this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can gain life points equal to that monster's original attack. You can only use each of the following effects of P.U.N.K Foxy Tune once per turn. You can tribute 1 P.U.N.K monster and special summon this card from your hand. You can send this card from your hand or field to the graveyard and send 1 card from your hand to the graveyard, and if you do, special summon 1 P.U.N.K monster from your deck except a level 8 monster. When you use the second part of the effect, you're primarily going to be looking for your Shirakusai or your Xiamen depending on what you need on the field. Next are 3 P.U.N.K Ogre Dance. Once per turn, when your opponent activates a monster effect, you can make this card gain attack equal to that opponent's monster's original attack until the end of this turn. You can only use each of the following effects of P.U.N.K Ogre Dance once per turn. You can tribute 1 P.U.N.K monster and special summon this card from your hand, or you can send this card from your hand or field to the graveyard, add 1 P.U.N.K monster from your deck to your hand except a level 8 monster. Once again, your primary searches are going to be your Shirakusai or your Xiamen depending on what you need. Going on to the spells, we have 1 Harpy's Feather Duster, destroy all spells and traps your opponent controls. Next are 2 P.U.N.K Jam Extreme Sessions, which is the second new support for P.U.N.Ks and is searched by using Wagon's effect. Once per turn, you can banish 1 P.U.N.K card from your graveyard to special summon 1 P.U.N.K monster from your hand. If a psychic monster you control paid life points to activate its effect, you can draw 1 card. Next is 1 P.U.N.K Wild Picking. At the start of the damage step, if your P.U.N.K monster battles an opponent's monster, you can destroy that opponent's monster. You can only use this effect of P.U.N.K Wild Picking once per turn. If this card in its owner's spell or trap zone is destroyed by an opponent's card, you can activate this effect, and P.U.N.K monsters you currently control cannot be destroyed by battle this turn. 1 P.U.N.K Crash Beat. If your opponent activates a card or effect that targets your P.U.N.K monsters, you can target 1 card your opponent controls and destroy it. You can only use this effect of P.U.N.K Crash Beat once per turn. If this card in its owner's spell or trap zone is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can activate this effect. This turn, your opponent cannot target P.U.N.K monsters you control with card effects, and it cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. I do like having both of these continuous spell cards in my deck. This is just a preference for me. Usually it's one or the other, or none that most people are playing. Next are 2 Emergency Teleport. Special summon 1 level 3 or lower psychic monster from your hand or deck, but banish it during the end phase of this turn. This card is extremely important and must be in this deck, because this is how you're going to get your Xiamen to the field Shield if you need a Ziyama to start with, or your Shirakusai if you want to just get into your fusions, and 2 Call by the Grave. Going on to the traps, we have 2 Infinite Impermanence, and you can definitely run this at 3, but I decided to run this at 2 to make room for the other Punk traps, such as the Punk Dangerous Gabu. You can target one effect monster your opponent controls, negate its effects, then if you control a Punk monster, gain life points to that targeted monster's original attack. And lastly, 2 Punk Nashiwari Surprise. Target one set card your opponent controls, or if you control a Punk monster, you can target one face-up card your opponent controls instead and destroy it. Once again, this is just personal preference for me. I do like having the ability to have a double negate and to have a double card destruction. Most players opt for one or the other and only run it at 1. That is definitely your choice. To start off the extra deck, we have 2 Punk Rising Carps, and I run 2 just in case the first is negated, and you will summon your Punk Rising Carp off of the effect of your Shirakusai. You can tribute this card to then special summon up to 2 Punk monsters with different names from each other from your hand and or deck except level 8 monsters in defense position. You're primarily going to be summoning your Wagon and your Dare Note, which is why you only want the Wagon at 1. If you synchro summon using this card as material, you can target one Punk monster you control. It can make a second attack during each battle phase this turn. Next is 1 Emancipator Risen Dragite. During your main phase, you can excavate the top 5 cards of your deck, and if you do, you can return cards your opponent controls to the hand up to the number of excavated rock monsters. Also place the excavated cards on the bottom of the deck in any order. When your opponent activates a spell or trap or effect while a water monster is in your graveyard, you can negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it. Next are 2 Punk Jam Dragon Drives, and this is your 3rd new support for Punks. If this card is special summoned by the effect of Punk card or synchro summon, you can pay 600 life points, take 1 level 3 psychic monster from your deck and either add it to your hand or send it to the graveyard. With that effect, you're going to be primarily looking for your Ghost Ogre. If your opponent activates a card or effect in response to your Punk cards or effect activation while this card is in your graveyard, you can special summon this card back. We have 1 Baron de Fleur. You can target one card on the field and destroy it. Once while face up on the field, when a card or effect is activated, you can negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. Once per turn during the standby phase, you can target one level 9 or lower monster in your graveyard, return this card to the extra deck, and if you do, special summon that monster. And this is a great way to recycle a lot of your Punks because they are all level 8 or lower. Next are 2 Punk Amazing Dragons, which is the first boss monster for this deck. If this card is synchro summoned, you could target cards your opponent controls up to the number of level 3 psychic monsters with different names you control and in your graveyard, return them to the hand. You can target one Punk monster in your graveyard except Punk Amazing Dragon and special summon it. Keep in mind that once you summon this card and you activate that first effect, you cannot activate that second effect until your next turn. Next is 1 Psychic End Punisher, which is another new card that was introduced into Master Duel and works extremely well with Punks. This is going to be your second boss monster. While your life points are less than or equal to your opponent's, this synchro summon card is unaffected by your opponent's activated effects. Once per turn, you can pay 1000 life points and target one monster you control and one card your opponent controls and banish them. At the start of the battle phase, you can make this card gain attack equal to the difference in your life points and your opponent's. That attack boost is permanent and happens every turn. We have 1 Humming the Key Jin. Once per turn, you can attach 1 XZ material from this card, then target 1 Jin XZ monster you control. This turn, it can attack your opponent directly. So when you use the effect, you're targeting this card so you can attack directly. Next is 1 Down Nerd Magician. During your main phase 2, you can also XZ summon this card by using a rank 3 or lower XZ monster you control as material. You're going to be using your Humming that we just talked about to then summon this card, which will then lead into Divine Arsenal AA Zeus. Next is 1 also the Earth Charmer. You can target 1 Earth monster in your opponent's graveyard, special summon it to a zone this card points to. If this link summon card is destroyed by battle or destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can add 1 Earth monster with 1500 or less defense from your deck to your hand. We have 1 Nightmare Unicorn, so that way you can spin cards back to your opponent's deck. And lastly, 1 Access Code Talker. That's it for the Punk deck profile. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, go ahead and leave a like and subscribe. And with that, I will see you in the next one. Later.